Jim Wilder, CRN. Want to go to my guest now, the one and only Kimberly Dvorak, award-winning national security, border security investigative reporter for TV, radio, and the print media. She is the senior foreign policy advisor for the Committee for Responsible Foreign Policy. She is also a TV correspondent, CW6 News, San Diego, as well as One America News Network, and she should be streaming live
on
Facebook. Last name spelled Dvorak. Her website, the KD Report. Kimberly, how are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
We're going to bring up the drone strikes again, right? Is this going all the way back to the guy that loved to do it, Obama?
Oh yeah, I mean it's definitely a tie. So maybe he was there and he saw the intel and he thought this was a good thing to do. I really think that it's unfortunate that 7 children had to lose their lives because President Biden needed something to look good, but because he hastily left the country of Afghanistan. We've been there for 20 years. He didn't bother to tell our allies about it. We just got up and left the country. And that was such a debacle. I think they were looking for something that, as they want to use the word, over the horizon. But when you use over the horizon, sometimes you don't know what you're hitting. So apparently, they come out and say it's a tragic mistake, but it's not an unknown story because you and I have discussed this a number of times on this program. The fact that these drone strikes will come back to haunt America, and they will come back even quicker now that we left all of our equipment in Afghanistan, some of them drones. So it's very sad that a whistleblower, Daniel Hale, I think we talked about him a couple months ago, he went to jail. He was a whistleblower for being a drone pilot, and he watched and he saw all of these these people died live on TV in front of him, and he said that in his mind he estimated that about 90% of the people that are killed are civilians, not terrorists.
Sometimes whenever you and I have discussed these drone reports and all of these ridiculous, we don't know who's in there, number one.
Yeah.
Well, we think he's in there, and then they shoot it. It's almost like, to them, they're playing a video game.
Yeah.
I wonder if that ever goes to their little tiny brain.
I don't know. I mean, I think, this ultimately came from the top. This was General Milley, this was General McKinzie, who I think General McKinzie was probably a little more reluctant on it, but he went along with it. And then obviously President Biden, I mean, they all had to weigh in on it, and General Austin. So if we send a guy who's a whistleblower saying that the drone program that we're using is killing massive amounts of civilians in countries that we're not at war with, and he gets a 45-month jail sentence, then these people who the CIA said they could have stopped it. They had seconds left and they could have stopped it, but they didn't do it. So these people all need to face firing, and they need, if they're in the military, they need to go to the U.S. military courts and be court-martialed. They killed 7 children and an aid worker that was a U.S. aid worker. That does not bode well, and there needs to start being firings because these generals just think they can do whatever they want, and it's no big deal. And you talk to some of the people that I've been talking to out here in Virginia, and they're former generals and admirals and colonels, and they're dismayed and they're broken up about this. They cannot believe what's going on. So I mean, there's a problem.
I was going to say, because not all the generals are coming across like this, because you mentioned one, General Kellogg.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah. He worked for Trump.
Yeah,
and he's also a Fox contributor now. But yeah, he wrote an opinion article and slamming that, saying that Austin, Milley, and McKenzie need to actually just be court-martialed and be done with it. Or if they don't hand in their resignations immediately, then they need to face court-martial, because it was blatant murder. They tried to cover this up for a couple weeks, and finally, the family in Afghanistan, now their whole family is going to probably be targeted because the Taliban's ridding the country of anybody that supported America. But it's just stunning that these generals lied. They lied. And that just, in the last institution that America trusts, they're absolving themselves and they're throwing it in. So now we really don't have a lot of agencies that we can trust. They're really going to look out for the best interests and national security for this country.
We're going to take that break now, Kimberly. And hard to believe, the drone strike killed 7 children. The target supposedly was going to be ISIS. They got them mixed up somehow, didn't they? Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Kimberly Dvorak, thekdreport.com. We'll be right back. Hey, let me ask you, in your latest report, you talk about the French frogs have had enough with the U.S. and withdrawing its ambassadors to the United States.
Yeah.
The French frogs, is that like the SEAL team or the UDT team?
I always refer to them as frogs. I have no idea. They never turn into princes, so they're frogs. Common frogs.
That's pretty serious stuff, because they're withdrawing their ambassadors to the United States.
Plural. Yeah. Obviously the government, State Department, this is where the State Department completely dropped the ball. This is where the White House completely dropped the ball. This could have actually been avoided because they're selling these nuclear submarines to Australia, and France was working on the sale, and they thought they were going to do it jointly. And then all of a sudden, Biden just says, no, you're not going to do that. So, now we have ill will with one of our allies. We've got ill will with, most of Europe because of the way we pulled out of Afghanistan. And the President of the United States now, President Biden, is continuing to compound his mistakes that he has made for his entire political career in foreign policy. He really should not be acknowledged in any realm of the foreign policy issue. Like I said, I don't know if he's the one that's actually reading this stuff and being briefed on this stuff, or there are other operators behind the scenes that are actually, doing this and say, "Signed here, Mr. President. That's what we need you to do." That may be that may be what's going on. I don't know for a fact, but they're just making colossal mistake after colossal mistake, and it's just it's an unmitigated disaster. The country's upset. And it's just something that he needs to just slow down, stop, and actually maybe try diplomacy and acknowledging that he made mistakes, rather than having the Department of Defense Secretary Austin come out 2.5 weeks late from this incident after he was covering it up as well and said, "Oh, sorry, it was an error, sorry." How offensive is that to these people? Those kids are never coming back. And I just think that, these people, they make judgments, and it just seems like with the drone program, they've continued to make poor judgment on any of this stuff, because we're killing a lot more civilians than is being reported by the CIA or the Defense Department. And under Obama, they moved the drone program and all of that over to the CIA, so they would have cover and they wouldn't have to answer to FOIAs and things like that. That used to be, and it should be, back at the Pentagon. So we can actually reach out to them, ask questions about these things, so we can, report to the American, people what's really going on in our country right now. So that's just not happening.
Sometimes, Kimberly, I feel like Obama is serving his third term.
Yeah. Certainly feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah. Because even in this report, you talk, what was it, on Tuesday?
Yeah.
That was his big day where he would come in and tell the people, okay, here's who's going to get the drone strike today.
Yep, Terror Tuesdays. That's great.
Terror Tuesday.
And when he killed the Americans, he was his chief of staff was asked, how did the president come to this conclusion? He's like, he totally approved it and said this one was an easy one. This was an easy one. Killing an American, and by the way, his 16-year-old son, who wasn't with him, but he had traveled for the first time in his life to Pakistan, or to Yemen, so he could talk his dad to turn himself in so he wouldn't get killed by a drone strike. But that was an easy one for, the Nobel Peace Prize winner, President Obama. That was an easy one. That's not how this country operates. If you want to do like a military tribunal, you do that in the country where you pick the person up. But these drone strikes, they're striking people. We're not at war with Yemen. I haven't seen anything that Congress has signed saying that we're at war with Yemen or Oman or Pakistan and Northern Africa. I mean, there's been no, detail written out saying, okay, we're at war with these countries, so it's in our best interest and we can drone strike people if we want to. And the danger here, and I know I'm talking fast, it makes me really angry, but the Iranians, I mean, I don't know if you remember when there was an Iranian drone that went down during Obama's administration. It crashed and they were able to get their hands on it and it was still pretty much intact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and this was a surveillance drone. And it was a Sentinel surveillance drone that was capable of flying high, getting all the information from the satellite imagery. So you had, you could focus down and see who was in a car, and those type of things. And recently Iran said that they were successful in reverse engineering that. And of course, they sold some of this information to China and Russia. Now, they're going to have that information. So now these drones are really not going to be, super, helpful for us. They're going to know how to get around whatever it does. So these are dangers when we do this stuff. If we want to go to war with all these countries, take it to the American people. Ask them if they want to pony up 5% in a war tax to pay for this so we can continue, the war fighting forever wars overseas. If the country was serious and Biden was serious about this country, he'd secure that southern border. You know what? In Canada, you can't even come to the United States because of COVID. You can't even get here later this month. So, I mean, we can do that, but we can't do that on our southern border, which is where the terrorists now are walking freely over, or like we talked about last week, some of them probably got on the planes and got a free airplane ticket and landed in America and dispersed around the country, and they're thinking, yeah, this is pretty great. All I need is a couple weapons. That's what we did.
Yeah. I'll tell you, in your article, you talk about Article 2, Section 2.
Yeah.
How the president is the commander-in-chief. He's the guy, the big guy, not a civilian.
Yeah.
But yet you have Milley, General Milley. Is that going to go away, or do you think something's really going to happen?
You know what? He's continuing to get negative coverage on this. I mean, I go through, because I read the Post and the New York Times, and I run through, some of the left-leaning stuff, and a lot of outfits like, the Daily Beast, which is a super left-leaning thing, is calling out the president for doing these things. He's getting hit from all sides. He has no good press. He's out on the beach bicycling. We still have thousands of Americans in Afghanistan, and this is what our president's doing. The Daily Beast kind of quoted that and said, well, at least he's not golfing, I guess. That's probably just as bad, but I would disagree. Golf probably is a good thing. But, he's not, in the White House taking care of all of this stuff, and he should be. So my thought process, if he's out there in Delaware doing his vacation, then he maybe should just retire, resign, because he's not up for the job of doing this. Because we've got a southern border where this month we had 210,000 people that they caught. And how many others got away? We don't know. But 210,000. The month before, 220,000. I mean, it's going to be well over 1 million or 2 million if this continues, and they keep allowing this to happen. And this administration is doing nothing. They're doing nothing. They're trying to pass some $3.5 trillion spending spree that will just break the back of this country.
And they're also, because Representative Ihan Omar, or whatever, Democrat, Minnesota.
Yep.
She now wants the Senate to determine that lawmakers can include a pathway to citizenship for illegal aliens in the budget reconciliation package.
Yeah.
And this is giving them a chance, because we need more jobs need to be filled.
Yeah.
We'll stop paying people to stay home, and maybe those jobs would be filled. You know? I sometimes you just wonder.
Yeah. Well, yes. Well, yesterday, on Saturday, I had a conversation with a gal from South Africa, And she, came over here as an au pair and ended up meeting somebody, but she went back to South Africa after a year or so. And she came back using the legal, process. She's trying to get her parents over here because it's, pretty dangerous over there right now. And in the process for her to jump through the hoops and how much money that it costs to do it the right way. So what are we telling people are doing it the right way? Forget about it. Buy a ticket to Tijuana, Mexico City, take a bus on up, and then cross illegally into the U.S., and we'll take care of you. We'll put you up in a hotel, because in California, that's what they're doing. They're putting them up in hotels. We'll give you food. They basically get benefits for full benefits for a year. They get a monthly stipend for a full year. And these are people that came to this country illegally. It's just, everything is like when it's backwards and forwards, and you just can't make any sense of what they're doing. And our enemies are watching, and they're watching how easy it is to actually bring this country down. COVID did a number on us, that's for certain. Why didn't we sanction China? It's just astounding. And I can't imagine thinking that even the President of the United States would not want to do this to the country. He wouldn't want to break the financial system. He wouldn't want to have open borders. He doesn't want crime to go up. I would hope that that's what the president wants. He's not coming out and really telling anybody other than reading what's on the teleprompter with no emotion. Speak freely to the American people how you're going to fix these issues. Because, that's what people want. They want to know that, they can have a secure job. They want to know that they're not going to, get blown up when they go to the local mall for the weekend. They want the security. They're not going to get carjacked. Those little things, and be able to go to soccer, practices without, having your car broken into or stolen. So, there's just so much of that going on right now. Tell us what you're going to do with that. And he doesn't. He comes out and tries to slap a pretty face by reading some teleprompter message, and it's just it's very sad, because I think a lot of people thought Biden was going to be run towards the center, and he's just not running anywhere. He's just letting the person of the day that upsets him, make the policy decision on that. But he didn't come out. He's not talking about what happened with the drone strike. Where are we at with that drone program? Because Milley, again, General Milley came out at the very first Pentagon briefing after the drone strike, and was asked a question about it, and he said it was a righteous kill. It was a righteous kill. He said that, and then he went on to say that we went through absolutely the same protocol that we're doing for all of the other drones. Absolutely every single one. Don't worry, we didn't rush this. It went through the exact same process. And we have a whistleblower saying that 90% of these people are civilians. So maybe they might consider revamping that program and make sure that the targets they do hit are actually the people that, we don't want on the planet anymore.
But in your report, you talk about one of the drone strikes, August 29th.
Yeah.
It was a car that was targeted.
Yep.
10 innocents dead.
Well, that, and what about the Doctors Without Borders in Afghanistan a couple of years ago? Remember, they got droned, and they were calling frantically to anyone in the United States State Department that they were working with, saying, we're being attacked. Stop sending these drones over our thing. We're Doctors Without Borders trying to do this. And then, of course, the military had to come out and apologize. We didn't mean to do it. Again, that didn't hold water, because they were called saying, this is it. Here's our GPS coordinates. This is Doctors Without Borders. And they work with the State Department. They've got like an ID number that they read off so they know it's the right person. And they still killed them. So we have a terrible system in place, apparently. We need human intelligence on the ground if we're going to do this, to get this done right. And, this over-the-horizon stuff is going to be nothing but catastrophic, and it's going to end up with terrorists attacking us on the homeland or at any of our embassies that are overseas, because these people have had enough of it. And the fact that it got out finally that the U.S. military had killed 7 of these children, the family came out in Afghanistan, and kudos for them, because that is tragic in and of itself, because they put themselves out there and the Taliban could come sweep them up. But you know what it did? It opened the eyes of all of our allies that were there. It's opened up the eyes of people in this country. It's a horrible headline, and it's still in the headlines. And, there's nobody that's been fired, but if you're a whistleblower, you can go to jail. Don't worry about it. But these generals that make this decision, they don't have to take, as you know, an unlawful order. And if the CIA is saying, hey, we see kids down there, then you can take your finger off the trigger and say, you know what, hold up, let's just, source this out, and we'll see if we can, get this done in the next couple hours, but we need to make sure that we're getting the right guy. That's what should have happened, and it didn't. So all of these people that are involved in it need to be held accountable, because they knew what they could have done, and they didn't do it. And McKinzie, General McKinzie, he said he was under tremendous pressure from leadership, meaning that would be Austin and the White House, to do something, to strike something, to make Biden look better, that he's a strong leader. So these people, and they're making these statements just in little bits and pieces, but if you watch it and you put it all together, it comes up with these people need to be, their resignation needs to be given immediately, and if they don't do it, which they likely won't, then they need to go through the court-martial process, and they will be court-martialed, and they will receive jail time. So they have an easy way. There's two ways that can go about this, and if they did that, one firing would give them better headlines.
All right, we're going to take that break. We're going to be right back. Kimberly Dvorak, thekdreport.com.
Everybody's talking at me.
Chip Wilder, CRN, with my guest Kimberly Dvorak. And, Kimberly, it's like if you're the good guy and you're saying, hey, there's something bad going on, it seems like the norm now. And you mentioned a while ago about Julian Assange.
Yep.
He was talking about the systemic killing of civilians.
Yep.
He's now facing 175 years in jail for espionage.
Yeah.
In other words, for telling the truth. Then you got the other guy, Daniel Hale, former U.S. Air Force analyst, and he turned whistleblower, so now he's in prison.
Yep.
Talking about all of the civilians being killed.
Yeah. And
is that any way to run a country?
Yeah, I don't think it's any way to run a country at all. I think people ought to, consider, taking a deep breath here. And I'm just gonna read this, because I sometimes like to look back at, philosophers and that. And Aristotle had a great saying that law is reason free from passion. And I think that taking the emotion from the secretive CIA drone program should be cause for concern. Just as America lacks a real war on terror strategy, employing a kill list falls under exclusive direction of the president and screams for regulation and oversight. That, like you said, they are taking, the CIA did all of these horrible things at Abu Ghraib in Iraq, and not one of them got jail time. But the soldiers who they were ordered to do this got jail time. So, I just think that all of this, virtue can all be summed up in, dealing justly with everybody. I think that we need to be a little more just with absolutely everybody, and, look at, the Constitution, and, everybody has equal rights, apparently, except for, if you're a, secretive CIA outfit. Or NSA, or I can just name there. Obviously, we have 17 or now 18, I think, because of the space has their own intelligence now. But and we're not any closer to making the right decision for all of this stuff. So for me, I look at it and I see that I don't want to witness any more wedding parties being droned. I just don't want to do that anymore. I think this actually can have that moment, and if President Biden wants to regain trust with the Americans, then he can start by saying, we don't have a strategy on the war on terror, and we certainly have got to figure out what we're going to do with all of these drone strikes, and what the process is going to be, so we ensure that we're getting the guy that we think we're going to get. Because if they don't do that, then he's going to be on a perilous trek the next 3 years of his administration. The media is over him now. They're going after him finally. Better late than never, I suppose. But, there are very real problems that this country is facing right now. And there's things that the president can do. And if he were to get back to doing those things, I think we'd be in a much better position. And I would support the president in doing something like that. But I highly doubt that will happen. I think that he's going to, in the end on this, one of these three generals are going to have to be fired. I like to see all of them go. Most people in the military saying all three of them need to go, especially since Milley was saying that, all the nuclear stuff goes through me, and he was reaching out to back channels, and not telling, and saying that, I had support, the last Secretary of Defense, Miller, he came out and he said, oh my gosh, I did not authorize this, I don't condone this, and I think he ought to resign from this. So, that's somebody that was in the Pentagon at that time, and he, it was just, he summed it up beautifully.
Well, a great report, Kimberly, as usual, and I thank you very much. Kimberly Dvorak, thekdreport.com, thekdreport.com. Look forward to our next visit.
Alrighty,
Thank
thanks.
you.